Purchasing an apartment in New York is nothing less than a wild dream for the majority of people out there. With those enchanting communities, exclusive culture, and some of the poshest communities competing to get ahead in the hustle of life, New York provides its residents with the elite playground necessary to live a perfect life, which is nothing less than a fairy tale. But there are some obstacles that many people find themselves facing while hunting for a perfect place in NYC. This is the reason we're going to provide you guys with a complete guide demonstrating how you can help yourself to an apartment in NYC. But before we move on, don't forget to press the like and subscribe button for some more advice related to real estate investing. The beauty of New York City is its great diversity in people and neighborhoods. Walk 40 blocks in Manhattan and you'll see both the hustle and bustle of Midtown, as well as the quiet charm and small-town feel of the West Village. NYC's unique variety of neighborhoods is reflected in the facts that can be found throughout the city, from super tall skyscrapers in Midtown to townhouses in Brooklyn Heights. The very first step before buying an apartment should be to target a neighborhood. Figuring out where you want to live is probably the most important part of buying an apartment in NYC. You need to consider all kinds of questions before making any decision. Are you looking to move because you'll have kids and need to be close to the park? Do you need your new home to be in a specific school district? Perhaps your bike to work on a bike path adjacent to the beautifully renovated Hudson Park River. Or perhaps you need to be centrally located so you can either walk to or easily take the subway to your job in Midtown. Maybe you want to be close to a grocery store that has sane and rational prices like Trader Joe's. Or perhaps you care more about being adjacent to the beating pulse of New York City nightlife in the Meatpacking District or Chelsea. If you don't already live in New York City, we highly recommend you visit the city first. Take your time to stroll across the various neighborhoods in the city to see where you can really see yourself at home. The neighborhood has to feel right for you. Even better, connect with an experienced agent for a personal overview of the city. If you're serious about buying in the city and don't live here, you'll need the assistance of an experienced real estate agent on the ground. The next step is to determine your range or budget. Take a realistic look at your monthly income. Is it relatively stable concerning your income, or does it fluctuate because you are a freelancer or you're working at a job that pays you irregularly? You'll want to be comfortable in being able to cover your monthly housing expenses with enough left over for basic spending and savings. If you're buying a co-op apartment, you'll also need to make sure your income and assets meet the financial requirements of the co-op. When you look at your monthly paycheck, remember to take your income after tax withholding as your starting point. Your housing expenses will come from your post-tax money, so that's where you should start. For example, assume you make $120,000 a year paid bi-weekly. Then your total monthly salary is $10,000. Let's say your tax withholding is set at 28%, so you only get $7,200 post-tax withholding every month. For simplicity, we'll ignore the fact that you might get a tax refund or owe additional taxes on April 15th the following year. Of this hypothetical $7,200, you'll likely also have to deduct your health insurance premiums as well as any contributions to your 401k. Say you contribute 5% of your pre-tax income to your 401k every month because that's what your employer will match. After that $500 401k contribution, you're left with $6,700 in post-tax income. Even though the burden of health insurance premiums has started shifting more to workers versus employers in recent years, for the sake of simplicity, let's assume your monthly insurance premiums are $200. That means you're now left with $6,500 post-tax income every month. Now, assuming you're very frugal and try to eat at home as much as possible, you'll still have to factor in $500 for groceries every month. Assuming you're not saving anything additional, not taking any fun trips, and not eating out or buying expensive drinks at bars and restaurants, you'll have $6,000 left to budget for housing expenses. Next up, you need to establish your search criteria. What things will you like in your apartment? Think long and hard about what you'd like as well as what you absolutely can and cannot have in your next home. For example, do you need the open-air charm and high ceilings of a loft? Or are you looking for a rather multi-bedroom apartment? Do you have a preference between co-ops and condos? Most investors and foreign buyers will skip over co-ops due to restrictions on subletting and the lack of real property rights. However, many local New Yorkers end up getting their hands on co-ops simply because they are typically 10% to 40% cheaper than condos of comparable size and quality. Keep in mind that co-ops also require a lengthier purchase approval process. You'll have to submit an intrusive co-op board package as well as pass a co-op board interview. The thought of your neighbors having control over your life and knowing every detail about your personal and financial history is too much to stomach for many people. Try to keep your search criteria as broad as possible so you won't miss listings that might have forgotten to include the detail that you've screened for. For example, almost all listings, with the exception of some houses and multifamily properties, will list the number of bedrooms. Every listing will definitely have a price. The next step, and perhaps the most pertinent step in your journey to buy an apartment in NYC, is to get a pre-approval for a mortgage. A pre-approval letter will be important to have so your buyer's agent can vouch for your credibility when requesting a private showing or making an offer. In fact, a pre-approval letter is necessary when submitting an offer in NYC unless you choose to waive the mortgage contingency clause. Submitting an offer with just a pre-qualification letter could result in your offer not being taken seriously by the seller or listing agent. And this is especially damaging if you're competing against other buyers during a bidding war. Some listing agents may even claim that your offer is incomplete and refuse to present it to a seller until you furnish a pre-approval letter. Another important reason for why you should get a mortgage pre-approval letter is simply to have your lender give a second opinion on what your budget and maximum purchase price should be. You may think that your income qualifies you to purchase a multi-million-dollar apartment with only 20% down, but your bank may think otherwise. At the end of the day, it's extremely important to get a sanity check from a mortgage lender on how much they think you can borrow. There's no point in continuing your search if you need a mortgage to buy and banks won't lend as much as you're expecting. Next up, you need to assemble the down payment. This is one of the most often overlooked steps in how to buy an apartment in NYC. People inevitably forget this step until they've stumbled into a signed contract and suddenly need to come up with a contract deposit. If you have a finite amount of savings for the down payment, you may want to consider taking the money out of the stock market so you won't run the risk of not having enough for your down payment should the market turn south. This will be especially important if you barely have enough money saved for the down payment. In this situation, you definitely don't want to risk losing your contract deposit because you decide to gamble the rest of your down payment by keeping it in the stock market a few weeks longer. Alternatively, if you haven't given your contract deposit yet, you don't want to have to come up with a contract deposit should the stock market crash and you're still invested. In that situation, you'll have a difficult decision to make. Should you send in your contract deposit anyway and lock in some losses, or should you give up on your dream home? What do you think about NYC as a place for apartments? Let us know in the comment section below. That was all for today. Make sure you press the like and subscribe button and push the bell icon so you don't miss out on anything.